Hello friends, welcome back to VOWIAS. Welcome to the mains test series discussion of Vision IAS, and we are going to discuss mains test 6, and this is part 3 where we will discuss from question number 11 to question number 15. So let us quickly start with the question number 11. So question number 11 is all about the droughts, the risks posed by droughts. As we all know, there are various droughts, the meteorological droughts, the agricultural droughts and so on. But if you see, the droughts on a whole has huge impact on the environment at large and also and the humanity at large. That means the food that we eat today is linked to rainfall. Okay, the environmental condition around us is linked to rainfall. The plants that grow around us is linked to rainfall. So everything, we can say the entire survival of human species is in fact linked to rainfall, because without water the survival becomes very difficult. So for the overall environmental existence, for overall the environmental progress and the existence of plants and animals, the rainfall, that means the water plays a huge role. So that's why the droughts has a huge impact on the environment at large. Drought, if you see, it is a period of time when an area or region experiences below normal precipitation, either rain or snow. It can cause reduced soil moisture, poor stream flow, crop damage and water shortage. So this is the definition we can start with. And two broad droughts, the environmental drought and the man-made drought, you can just write that. And the risks which are posed by the droughts. What is going to happen because of droughts? So this either you can divide into the broad sub-themes like economic, social, environment, or you can write in point wise also. The reduced river flow can increase the concentration of pollutants in the water. So the water eutrophication, which we generally talk about, so that you can start with. The drought can limit growing season. This is another issue. The growing season will get limited. This will further reduce the yields, crop yields. The food prices will rise, and this will lead to malnutrition and unavailability of food to the people. The drought also can affect the health of the livestock. Also, the dusty, dry wind conditions and wildfire accompany drought. They raise concerns about the reliability of electricity production from plants that need cooling water to maintain safe operations. Now the risk reduction measures to combat droughts. Awareness with respect to availability of safe drinking water, water conservation techniques, agriculture, drought management strategies, etc. They can be generated through media. Drought monitoring, continuous observation of rainfall situation, availability of water in the lakes, rivers, etc. Water harvesting by allowing runoff water from all fields to a common point or allowing it to infiltrate into the soil where it has fallen or increased or the water availability for agricultural production. Expansion of irrigation facilities, because even today we see only about 55% of the land has irrigation. Identifying the livelihood which are least affected by the drought, like the off-farm employment opportunities, collection of non-timber forests, etc. And also drought planning is something which is very important for the effective coordination among states and the national agencies for establishing a specialist team for drought, providing crop insurance schemes and drought emergency plans, etc. Deploying the green infrastructure for stormwater management, the energy efficiency in buildings, and using RE like the solar isn't reliant on the water. Okay. So these are the various things. And also, if you see, India is a net water exporter. Net water exporter. What does this mean? That means we are a huge exporter of crops like sugarcane and rice, wheat and so on. Especially sugarcane and rice, if you see, they are very much dependent on the water. They consume a lot of water. And we are exporting these crops. So that means we are exporting water itself indirectly. So that's why we are a net water exporting country. So even this crop management also is very much important. Okay. So these are the things about the drought. Now let's move on to the question number 12. So question number 12 is with regarding to the marine heat waves. The marine heat waves, if you see, these are the periods of extremely high temperature over seas and oceans. They occur when the seawater temperature exceeds seasonally varying threshold for 5 consecutive days. During this marine heat waves, the average temperature of the ocean surface up to a depth of 300 feet goes above 5 to 7 degrees than normal. This is the major thing. And they can occur in summer or winter and can last for either weeks or for years. And recently they have increased by 50% over the past decade. And this increase in 50% over the past decade is due to various reasons. What are those? The first is 90% of the warming is caused by the greenhouse gas emissions because they are absorbed by the oceans, especially the carbon dioxide and all. The strong El Nino with rapid warming in the Indian Ocean, because as you all know, because of El Nino, the Western Pacific, in fact, it will face this reversal of the currents. The Western Pacific will have the warm currents. Generally, the Western Pacific will have warm current. That means near Australia, and because of that, there will be rains. But during this El Nino, the Western Pacific near Australia, it will have cold currents, and the Eastern Pacific near Peru will have warm currents. So because of this, what will happen is the area near Peru will face extreme rainfall, and the area near Australia will face drought. Okay, this will also lead to extreme warming in the Indian Ocean as well. The rains in the Indian Ocean will reduce. So when the rains are less, then the warming of the land and the warming of the ocean is more. The ocean currents also can build up of warm water and air-sea heated flux or warming through the ocean surface from the atmosphere. The increase in the sea surface temperature, according to the IPCC's fifth assessment report, the sea surface temperature has increased at a rate of 0.6 degrees centigrade per century since 1880. This warming has increased the likelihood of these marine heat waves. When there are light winds, warm water do not mix with the cooler water below. It floats on the surface of water and continues to heat up, resulting in marine heat waves. Now the impact of this marine heat wave on Indian subcontinent. The first is it impacts the southwest monsoon in the Indian subcontinent. Example, the monsoon heat waves contributed to reduced monsoon rainfall over the central India and increased rainfall over the southern peninsular area. Because see, as you all know, India, so this is, let's say this is South India, and here we have the Arabian Sea. Okay, so here we have Bay of Bengal, and here we have the Indian Ocean. So the southwest monsoon, the monsoon which is coming in this direction, they are mostly dependent on the temperature conditions of the ocean here. Okay, so if this ocean is more warm, what will happen is that there will be more evaporation. So when there is more evaporation, there will be huge discharge in the near surface itself. That means in the near coast itself, in this area. This is what is being observed. So here the rainfall increased, and in the central India and all, the rainfall decreased. This is what is observed. Okay, the higher water temperature can increase risk of extreme weather events like tropical storms, floods, droughts and wildfires in the subcontinent. And the impact of the coastal communities as the increase in acidification and deoxygenation of Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea hamper the aquaculture and cause increase in the mortality of important species like fisheries, crabs, prawns, etc. This harms the regional tourism as well. Okay, so this is about the marine heat waves. Now let's move on to the next question, the 13th question, and this 13th question is on the plastic pollution. Plastic pollution, if you see, according to the UNEP report, 400 million tons of plastic waste are produced per year, and out of which 9% is recycled, and vast portion accumulates in the landfills and natural environment. 11 million ton of plastic enter into the world ocean annually. So we also know this, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So what happens is, we all know there are ocean currents. So these ocean currents, what they'll do is, they'll take these plastics, okay, they'll take these plastics along the current, and all of them accumulate in the area where there is low currents. So in the Pacific region, they observed this area, which is a huge area comprising only of the plastic. This is what is observed, and that is called as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Also, India have banned these plastics in 2022. They have banned this plastic, and especially the single-use plastic, it was banned in 2022. Only about 50% of the single-use plastic, they are actually recycled in India. We are talking about single-use plastic. Okay. So the what is now the impact of this plastic on the environment? The chlorinating plastic releases harmful chemicals into the soil, which seeps into groundwater and ecosystem. 8% of the world's oil goes to manufacturing of plastics. Disposal of the conventional fossil fuel based plastic is forecast to grow to 19% of the global carbon budget by 2040. The plastic can disrupt ecosystems. Example, the root system of mangroves get affected by plastic pollution in the sea. The plastics are contributing to the destruction of coral reefs as well. Especially these microplastics, they tend to accumulate. We all know this bioaccumulation. So because of this bioaccumulation, they tend to accumulate in the human body, not only in human, in the animals as well. Okay, and the level of microplastic in ocean is said to grow 50-fold by the end of century, and the risk of being, and this will lead to widespread extinction of more plant and animal species. The additional stress which is pushing the marine population towards extinction, especially in the hotspots. The World Wildlife Fund says that 88% of the marine species studied were impacted by the plastic pollution. The floating plastics survive for several years in the water, and they serve as the mini transportation devices for invasive species, and they disrupt the habitats. So we have the Basel Convention, which is a legal binding instrument that addresses the plastic pollution and regulates transboundary movement of the plastic waste. Recent measures were taken to tackle the plastic pollution are the UNEA 5.2 in Nairobi, which talks about the resolution passed to end plastic pollution and forge international agreement by 2024. The Global Plastic Action Partnership, convened by World Economic Forum, created unified platform to champion transition to the circular economic model for plastic pollution. The World Economic Forum's Uplink Innovation Crowd, which is a sourcing platform running the Global Plastic Innovation Network Challenge. The Plastic Free Rivers and Seas for South Asia, please, which has said that 50 million project, which has even started this 50 million project to fight the plastic pollution across 8 countries of South Asia, and they are supported by the World Bank, the Parley for Oceans and South Asia Cooperative Environment Program. India pledged to join the UN Environment's Clean Sea campaign to turn the tide on marine litter, and India pledged to ban all single-use plastic by 2022. It passed the Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016 and introduced concept of extended producer responsibility. So these are the contributions of India and the world as well. So the broad causes, if you see, first is poor recycling, the poor recycling of the plastics at large, poor responsibility both by the users and the producers, and also the costlier alternatives is making very difficult for the plastics to get banned. The alternatives that are available, they are either too costly, or we don't have alternatives as well. This is the situation. So that's why the plastic is still existing. Now let's move on to the 14th question. The 14th question is on the radioactive waste. So radioactive waste is the waste that comprises of the radioactive materials. So the radioactive substances means the substances which contain naturally occurring radium and the man-made radionuclides like cesium, and the concentration of which necessitates the radiation protection control. The protection control of the radioactive waste depends upon the type of radionuclides contained and radiation emitted, the alpha, beta, gamma activity, and also the spontaneous disintegration per unit time and the radioactive half-life time. Okay, so this radioactive waste, basically, if you see, it gets released by various reasons like the nuclear reactors or the medical waste, and lot of equipments use these radioactive materials. For example, the atomic clocks, which are used in the satellites and all, they also use the radioactive materials. As I said, the medical devices, lot of medical devices use these radioactive materials. So the radioactive materials, like when they are disposed, or the waste which is produced during their production, they have to be disposed properly, because they are also radioactive, and they also emit these radiations like the alpha, beta, gamma rays, right? So that's why they have to be disposed properly. Now, what are the harmful effects of this radioactive waste? So the radioactive waste has various harmful effects, like the radiation exposure causes mutation at higher rate. The high level of exposure in short time can cause nausea and vomiting within hours and may result in death over days or weeks. It causes DNA damage and it raises the risk of cancer, particularly in young children and fetus. If it seeps into the ground, it can get into reservoirs and drinking water sources, reaching homes of the people. Now, how to manage the radioactive waste? This is another thing. Managing of this radioactive waste. The first is sorting. Separating waste as per its different properties in particular half-lives of radionuclides which it contains. Because the medical industry use different kind of radioactive material, the clock production, the radioactive clocks, they use different kind, and the waste which is produced by these nuclear reactors, okay, by these nuclear power producing reactors, for them the waste produced is of different kind. So as the waste produced is of different kind, they have to be treated differently, they have to be segregated differently. The treatment and conditioning, like the incineration, calcination, melting, compaction, cementation, verification, etc., to produce the quantity and toxicity. Packing in specially engineered containers for safe storage and disposal allows for easier handling and transportation. The storage facilities are designed to accommodate waste packages as per their categories. Example, very short-lived waste is stored long enough to decay before the disposal through waste system like hospital waste systems. Low and intermediate level short-lived waste, which is cemented in the metal or concrete containers before getting disposal into the surface or underground facilities. And the disposal, if you see at final stage, it implies that the packages have reached their final destination or there is no intention of retrieving them. The radioactive waste, which cannot, for nuclear safety or radiation protection reasons, be disposed on the surface or at lower depth, has to be disposed in deep geological formations. That means the mined areas and all these areas which are very deep. So they have to be used. Other waste like uranium mill tailings, they are disposed of in the mining sites. Especially the spent fuel is stored in the spent fuel pools. Okay, so the mined areas only, the uranium mined areas only can be used for disposing them again. So this is about this radioactive waste, the harmful effects of the radioactive waste, the management of the radioactive waste and all, right? Now let us look at the last question of the day, that is 15th question. This 15th question is on the land degradation and desertification. Land degradation is caused by direct or indirect human induced process, the long-term reduction or loss of biological productivity, ecological integrity or value of the land to the humans. This is called as land degradation, and just by heart is definition, and this you can use directly. The next is desertification, the land degradation in dry regions, the arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid region, which turns the fertile land into desert. The Desertification and Land Degradation Atlas of India says that 29.7% of India's total area underwent land degradation in 2018-19. Now the impact of land degradation and desertification. So the first is agricultural production decreases with soil degradation. It affects agricultural income, leading to decrease in health, education and the living standards. It reduces land's ability to store water, resulting in water scarcity. It affects the production of industrial and household work. The loss of livelihood and land forces people to migrate in search of economic opportunities. Influx of climate migrants in the other areas, leading to social tensions owing to limited resources. Creates ground for zoonotic diseases, water and foodborne diseases and respiratory diseases. There are higher threats of the malnutrition from reduced food and water supplies. They affect the tourism due to loss of the scenic beauty and economic services. So what are the national level initiatives to tackle this land degradation? The first is India is party to the UNCCD, United Nations Convention to combat desertification, and India pledged to reach the land degradation neutrality by 2030. India promotes sustainable land management via the Fasal Bima Yojana, the Soil Health Card Scheme, the Soil Health Management Scheme, the Krishi Sanchay Yojana, the Per-drop More-drop Scheme, etc. The participatory forest management through National Forest Policy 1988 and enabling guidelines in 1990 on the joint forest management. The Ministry of Environment is implementing 3 schemes for the development of the forest: the National Afforestation Program, National Mission for Green India, and the Forest Fire Prevention and Management Scheme. These are the various national level initiatives. Next, the international initiatives, if you see, the UNCCD, which was established in 1994, it is a legally binding international agreement linking environment and development to sustainable land management. The REDD, the reduction of emissions from deforestation and degradation mechanism, aims to reduce emissions from deforestation. Sorry, yeah. So aims to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. The Bonn Challenge by Germany and IUCN in 2011 has a global goal to bring 150 million hectares of degraded and deforested landscape into the restoration by 2030 and 350 million hectares by 2030. The Global Initiative on Reducing Land Degradation, which aims to strengthen implementation of the existing frameworks to prevent, halt and reverse land degradation within the G20 members and globally. India is on the way to achieve land degradation neutrality by 2030. Right. So if you see broadly, the impact. So the impact we have the economic impact, the environmental impact, right? The geographical impact. All these impacts are there, like even the food, right? All these are the impacts. And after the impacts, what we have seen is the national level initiatives. So if you just remember the important schemes, so also India is party to this UNCCD and land degradation neutrality by 2030. The schemes like the soil health card scheme, soil management and all, right? And also the Minister of Environment implementing these schemes like the National Afforestation, National Mission for Green India, the Forest Fire Prevention Management Scheme. All these things you can just write. And then international initiatives, if you can just remember a couple of them, like the UNCCD, REDD or Bonn Challenge, like these are sufficient. Okay, so like this we can write a comprehensive answer comprising of all the elements, right? So these are the questions for the discussion of the day. Hope you have enjoyed the lecture and you have understood the things. If you have any query, if you have any question, do leave in the comment box. Do let us know your thoughts. We will definitely get back to you, right? So that's it guys from my side. I'll see you again with the next set of questions in the next video. Till then, keep studying. And before I leave, these are the initiatives that we are having: the Vision Prelims test series, Mains test series, and monthly magazine. These are the summaries that we are providing for all of these. So just use these summaries for your preparation. Do check the quality of these summaries in our Telegram channel, right? So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Jai Hind.